How you doing?
Good, man. You changed
Good
your
to see
hair
you.
since I saw you last time.
I know. I got a cut.
All right, finally.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Jeff, thanks for being here. Share your slides if you have any. I'll be rooting for you from the backstage.
Sounds good. All right. Hey, everybody. Jeff Hardison. I am head of product marketing for Calendly. And sorry, I'm at the very end here. And what I'm going to talk about today is actually 3 beliefs I have in 2022. Because basically, there's things that we learn in a year, like how to build a report in Mode or how to use a new tool or a new positioning framework or what have you. But there's things that we maintain that are beliefs for us in product marketing and marketing that we might maintain for a couple of years. It might have taken a few years for us to learn it. And then all of a sudden it could get challenged with various data, whether it's a certain company you work for or someone who influenced you or what have you. And so I think it's really important to challenge anything that you are learning with data and make sure it's something that can be malleable and shift it. So for example, in the past, I'd say for many years, I maintained that we should keep a feature secret before it's launched publicly, so that we could go to like influencers such as, say, bloggers or Product Hunt or trade media and be able to announce it with them. And sometimes they don't want something to have leaked out into Twitter or what have you before they want to cover it, right? It's old news to them. This was like something that a lot of like PR people taught you. Now I'm willing to kind of challenge that a bit, depending on the situation, and say, what are the drawbacks of holding this or releasing it versus the benefits? So I'll give you an example. We've got a feature that's coming out for Calendly next year. It's the ability to be able to integrate with various forum providers like Marketo, and then be able to route people to certain meetings based on Salesforce information in your CRM. Okay. And this is something we've been private beta testing for a number of months. And, old Jeff might have said, hey, let's hold this, keep it really quiet. I don't want to leak it. No one say anything, no one tweet about it and what have you, because we want to go to say like, Protocol magazine and talk about it. Okay. Now I realize that, Protocol, for example, is going to be no longer, it's going out of business. And so maybe it has less influence than it might have, say, 10 years ago. And, we have 10 million users. So that's almost like our own publication. And so maybe there is more benefit to sharing this with our own user base instead of waiting around and making sure we keep it really secret and just going to, say, like one trade publication that might get us, a couple hundred visits, right? So another situation which I have constantly reevaluated and thought about and looked at the data and said, should we challenge this? Should we not? Is my belief that happy customers are your best asset as a marketer. Now, it's funny, it seems very basic, but there's so many marketers out there that will go months, years without putting testimonials on their website, without doing videos with their customers, without doing case studies, because instead they're using some new tool or they're trying out some new narrative design or what have you. But I believe this is like a timeless thing you should do, whether it was 1,000 years ago or now, because it taps into a basic human tendency to trust our peers over vendors. Okay. And so I probably will never change my belief about this, no matter what data or trends come. And so this is an example of something that like probably will be fixed, but I'll reevaluate it every year. Maybe things will change. Whereas the other thing was kind of dependent on platforms and tools and trends and so forth that come and go. Okay. So that's one trend. All right. An example of this playing out is, for example, we have a customer call rail. They did a testimonial for us and they did a case study, but we didn't make this really difficult on ourselves by saying we got to go have 1,000 of these case studies. What you can oftentimes do with these customer testimonials is be able to like squeeze that lemon to get as much as you can out of it. So take it and make a case study. Take it and make a tweet out of it where there's like a little mini video, do a webinar around it, really squeeze that lemon with that customer while they're excited to work with you versus trying to go just get thousands of different customer case studies. All right. Belief number 2. This comes up a lot, particularly in product marketing, is frameworks. Which framework should we use? Should we use this positioning messaging framework? Should we use this narrative design one? Should we just not even do positioning messaging and just do a slide deck? In product marketing in particular, frameworks get debated. They also get debated over in sales. And so one of the things I've learned to do is have your favorite frameworks, because someone's going to ask you if you join as a product marketer, they're going to say like, hey, develop some position and messaging for me, or hey, can you work on some type of discovery process with our sales team? You need to have a go-to framework that you can use, but hold it loosely, because what end up happening is maybe the CEO has their favorite framework. Maybe the new sales leader has their favorite framework. And you need to be willing to adapt, because really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It just matters that we're doing something around, say, positioning and messaging or discovery, and different trends around this are going to come and go, but they're all pretty much the same. It's really about just getting people organized and on the same page. So an example of this is we use Spiced at Calendly, and I used this in my past at Clearbit. And I was lucky because this was the framework we chose and I'd already used it. So I was super comfortable. But what if it wasn't? What if I used, like Bant or Medic or something like that? I challenge you not to get bent out of shape about it. And just because people aren't using the framework you're using, just adapt. They're all very similar. And it's more important to use one that everybody's kind of familiar with, so that it is absorbed more and actually used and not shoved away into a drawer. Okay. All right. Belief number 3. I think a lot of times we debate, particularly in marketing and also in product marketing, is it's all about like learning the new tactics and learning the new tools. And if you looked on LinkedIn and Twitter, that's what a lot of the conversation is about. But really, as you progress in your career, it's more about interpersonal stuff that transcends, your job. And it's something that people need to learn in product management, in sales leadership, in nonprofits, in your family, what have you. And that's about being a leaderly diplomat to move your company forward, versus obsessing about the various marketing trends and how well we're doing a certain tactic, what have you. That's table stakes. How well you do research, positioning, messaging, sales enablement, launches, ongoing adoption marketing, that's all table stakes. You're going to have to learn how to do that. I'd even say learning how to manage people properly is table stakes. The next level thing, and I tell this to all, my managers that report to me, is the next level thing is just be a business person that helps to take your company forward. And one way you can do that is by being a leaderly diplomat. Okay. And so, for example, let's say that the company isn't data driven. Well, you might say, that's not my job. Isn't that product's job? Or is that maybe the data science job? Whose better job is it than yours as a already diplomatic person caught in between sales, marketing, product management, what have you? And you're already having to figure all those teams out and get them to work better together. Who's better to go in there if you have some knowledge about being data driven than you? Okay. What if you say that, hey, we never listen to customers. We don't do enough voice of the customer work. Who's better than convincing the rest of the company than doing it than you? All right. And you're going to use that power of diplomacy you've already honed as a product marketer to be able to move these kind of things forward. And you might say, I don't want people mad at me, or, I don't want to like stick out and what have you. Hey, you're never going to go to the next level as a marketer to maybe the VP level, to maybe the CMO level or beyond, until you learn to be uncomfortable and have those hard conversations. That doesn't mean coming in and being a bull in the china shop and upsetting everybody. That's going to happen from time to time, anytime you're trying to enact change. But it means on coming in and listening and being sensitive and working on yourself so that you don't get upset when people don't do what you want, so that you don't get upset when people are change resistant and what have you, to be able to move the company forward and actually to grow as an individual. So I'd love for all of you to be my friend on LinkedIn. You can find me there. Again, my name is Jeff Hardison, and I'm with Calendly. Thank you.
Very much. I have a couple of questions to kick it off. One, so you said, tell everybody about your upcoming features if the benefits outweigh the downsides. So how would we know this upfront?
So one of the things I like to look at is just kind of look at the situation and say, all right, in a past job, why did it work when you waited? So, for example, I worked for a customer data platform, Lytics, and I pushed really hard to not tell anybody because we were small. We had, a handful of customers. Our email database was really small. And then I weighed that against saving the information for influencers who have a much larger database. And I knew that, 200 visits from, say, TechCrunch talking about one of our launches we did, outweighed me just sitting there leaking this to like 15 people, who are our customers, right? And so like that's a simple little bit of math you can do. Whereas at Calendly, I say, well, time has passed since when I worked with Lytics. Does Protocol Magazine, does it have more reach than me at Calendly? Well, no, we have 10 million users who read our email newsletter. I can just put that in an email newsletter and get more hits from my own database than I can from that particular magazine. But I had to weigh that specific situation at Calendly versus this small startup.
Being a leaderly diplomat. All right. So what's an example of being a leaderly diplomat, and how does one become one?
Well, I think naturally product marketers have to be diplomatic. I think there's other jobs in marketing where you can be more grumpy, if you're really good at like math or tools. But product marketers, because it's a lot of times about being stuck between product management, sales, marketing, who doesn't always get along, you just naturally, if you're not already a middle child person that's used to being pulled between these groups, you learn to be able to work between these groups to get them to work together. So for example, let's say product wants to be able to like sunset a feature. You learn to go to sales and explain it to them and deal with them being upset about it, and then go back to product and give the feedback. That's just a muscle you gain as a product marketer. Take that muscle and use it for more than product marketing stuff like research, launches, sales enablement, et cetera, and find opportunities where you can be able to move something forward the company should be doing, but it might not feel like your job. So really, it's just extending a muscle that you've developed around diplomacy to other areas of the business. And this is less about if you just want to be an IC product marketer and more if you want to evolve into leadership.
Okay. All right. And so this is it. I guess when you say that's over time, you have learned that that's more important than knowing all the tactics. Is this like just when you realize that's what matters? It's a sign of maturity.
I think it's for more as like like what I said was like over time in your career, you need to evolve into that thinking versus obsessing. If you're 20 years into your career as a product marketer, or even 10 years in your career, and you're still obsessing about what's the latest tool or what's the latest new cool framework that someone wrote a book about for position and messaging, you're never going to, I'd argue, you'd rarely evolve into a leadership position like a VP or CMO level if you're still obsessing over that stuff versus how do you move the company forward with change management.
Boom. All right. Well, Jeff, on this note, thank you so much. Everybody give Jeff a follow on LinkedIn, and we'll catch you on the other side.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.